I think it's the most interesting match. Like main event's hard to say because while we are celebrating 50 years of New Japan Pro Wrestling, as much as it guts me to say, we're also celebrating Inoki. So the traditional way should almost be the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship in the main event. But I feel like a lot of people are more fascinated to see who really is the best foreigner to ever grace New Japan Pro Wrestling ring. So I think it's a true interesting concept where you can actually use the term double main event.
What went through, I mean, the people who are deep in the weeds and following everything online, they know about the cease and desists and like the bickering back and forth on Twitter for a while. So we kind of had this perhaps in the back of your mind. You had perhaps had it in the back of your mind, but what went through your mind when Kenny Omega first pops up on the screen in Ariake?
At first I thought it was a bit of a joke. I thought somebody was playing around with me, but as he started talking more and more, it became more clear that this was something that's been hurting Kenny very deep. He's been paying an extreme close attention to everything that I've been doing, and is almost obsessed with what move I make next. And I said it in my backstage comment, but the reality is somewhat is what everyone is saying is I have been wrestling in Kenny Omega shadow. And while the bright lights of AEW have hid that shadow, I've just got bigger and bigger. And then as soon as those bright lights of AEW have worn off and he's seen the size of this shadow, he's almost scared of it. So it's now a point where he needs to come back to New Japan to try and put it out himself, because if he doesn't, then maybe I'm just going to be too big and I'll conquer the world.
I mean, you've been back and forth to AEW a few times during the summer. Why is it important to you that this match happens in New Japan, that it happens in the Tokyo Dome? And why do you think Kenny chose to come here rather than say to you, come over to the States?
I do believe what Kenny says about he wants to give one more showcase to the fans. I do believe that. But I also think the Tokyo Dome is where Kenny Omega was made. We all remember that match from Okada, that first one. And that was the one that made Kenny Omega the forefront of not just the foreign wrestlers, but all of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was the front and centerpiece. He was the guy that we was let's face it, that the company was almost centered around, especially when it comes to even the United States branch of like branching out. I mean, he was probably going to be the face of that. So to do it in the Tokyo Dome, where he became who he is now, it's almost poetic that I've got to put out that flame.
There was that line in that message in Ariake that you and these sort of foreign wrestlers that just use Google Translate to try and sort of get cheap heat or cheap applause from the fans. That's the real pandemic in New Japan. How did you take that line?
Well, I don't see us as the real. I think you used the word virus. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see us as the virus right now. I see us as the antidote, as we're the fresh, new things on the block. I mean, we're Chris, you could probably back me up on this, but like that match that I had with Finlay in Kobe, was that the first sellout of the pandemic?
It wasn't the first sellout, but definitely every time that you're in that spot, we're doing bigger numbers than before the pandemic. That was the biggest Kobe crowd. You and Okada blew away all the Budokan numbers we've done during the pandemic. So yeah, I mean, for sure, you can make that argument. So
that's kind of my argument. Look, my whole thing is, Chris, I tried to learn the language, and like I can barely speak English, bro. Like, so I'm not gonna hide the fact that I'm not very good with the language, and like I'm not very good. Even like the culture even scares me a little bit. It intimidates me. Like I won't sit here and pretend that I'm fully educated about how the Japanese culture works, but I'm fully aware of the work ethic behind Japanese professional wrestling and even the Japanese culture. the work ethic is next to none. And I do believe that even though I can't speak the language, you can't help but admire the work ethic and the amount that I put in. So I don't think I'm the virus at all. If anything, I think me and the United Empire boys, we're kind of the antidote right now. We're the shot in the arm that New Japan needs. And I think if that shot in the arm wasn't there, I think New Japan would be off in a worse space.
I mean, the last couple of years has been you with the United Empire, and you made a break in a way similar but different to how Kenny did in 16. Kenny attacked AJ Styles, took over the lead of the Bullet Club in a pivotal kind of a turning point for New Japan Pro Wrestling, whereas you sort of struck out from Okada, did your own thing, rightly or wrongly. Kenny said this in a pre-tape with AEW. He said, what makes us so different? Well, I carved my own path through my own hard work. You took the easy way out, and you always lent on other people to bail you out when you couldn't make a mark. How do you take that comment?
I think it's kind of rich coming from him, saying like he gambled and he created his own path, and he just what was that? We gambled on ourselves. You bet on like a billionaire's son, bruv. Like, calm down. Like, I mean, the thing is I'm not going to deny Kenny's star power at all. I'm not going to deny it. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you looked at the fan engagements behind Kenny Omega, I'm sure it's spiked. I'm sure so many, probably ticket sales have gone up since this match, front and center. You said, like. I'm not denying Kenny's star power. I'm not denying the fact that so many people want to see him back in the New Japan Pro Wrestling ring. But like, what I will deny to I'm blue in the face is that you're better than me. Like right now, I don't think anyone's operating on my level. Like, there's a reason you've come back. You've got a cushy job with AEW, getting paid ludicrous amounts of money, and you've decided to come back. And I do think that is because you are scared. I think if you don't do something about this now, while you are still able to be the Kenny Omega that we kind of remember, if you could shut it down now, then maybe you're in with a chance of extinguishing the flame that Will Ospreay is. But I don't think you've got that chance anymore. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that this is my time. And just like what the Tokyo Dome did for you back in 2017, and it skyrocketed you into a new stratosphere of star, is exactly what's going to happen to me, because all those people that you've brought back to New Japan, all those guys that are happy to see you back, they're all going to be watching you go down to me. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. I won't deny star power at all. I'm not going to deny the drawing capability at all. But you're going to come with all those people and they're going to watch you lose. And I think that's more terrifying.
I mean, bringing up, we spoke about it earlier, Kenny's match with Okada in the Tokyo Dome. And I don't think, when your time in New Japan is done, we couldn't talk about it without talking about Okada in the last two Tokyo Domes. Just like you can't talk about Kenny Omega without talking about Okada. And we saw you go to that well in the G1 final. Why could Kenny beat Okada in a way that you couldn't?
I still haven't worked out the answer to that. I'm still trying. I've watched every single match back. Every Tokyo Dome match, every G1 final, every G1 match, New Japan Cup match that I've ever done against him. And I don't know what it is. It's kind of like a missing ingredient. But Chris, I'm into puzzles, man. And I enjoy working out. I enjoy finding out how to crack all these puzzles. So Okada's going to be a missing ingredient, and I won't know how to do that until I conquer something else. And maybe this is the pathway. Maybe this match with Kenny is going to open doors and open my eyes a little bit of how I can then, after this, beat Okada. But I can't really think of that right now. Look, Kenny is an enigma. Kenny's one of the best wrestlers that have ever graced pro wrestling. I will never deny that. Like, you'll never hear me say that he wasn't good at what he does. It's like incredible at what he does. But it's now, it's a tide shift now, and things are going in a different direction. And I'm learning and growing and evolving every time I wrestle. and I feel in my gut I'm at my best that I've ever been. So it's now or never, really. It's time for me to grab this by the horns and really try and push this as far as I can go. So I don't know what the missing ingredient is to beat Okada, but I think I know how to beat Kenny.
Was that something you felt when you faced off in AEW during that trios tournament? Did you get any hints on maybe Kenny showing his hand a little bit?
I feel like, especially because Kenny only just came back from an ungodly amount of injuries, that I had him quite weak. And the mission objective, I mean, it would have been nice to win those trios titles, but the mission objective wasn't to beat him, it was just to hurt him. And I was able to get even. Do you know what I mean? After all the sugar honey iced tea talking and all the cease and desists and all of the backstabbing, I just wanted to hurt him, and I accomplished that mission. But I did see flaws in what he does. He's very much unstable with his professional wrestling. Sometimes he takes his eye off the ball. He's not as calculated as what I would like to imagine. He's strike. He hits hard, and he's very creative. But he takes his eye off the ball to do silly taunts and to put himself in positions where he knows he has openings that I can seize on. So this is where I mastered that. I never take my eye off of the guy. I mean, I take risks and sometimes I don't pay off, but you can't argue with my win-loss record for this year. I think I've lost like 6 matches in this entire year. So my whole game plan with this is just, I have to be a very defensive wrestler, and I have to wait until Kenny makes his moves so I know how to counter and combat that.
You brought up the word stability, and Kenny also in that AEW pre-tape had the scathing line of you're unstable, you're unintelligent, and that's why you fail. But I mean, do you feel that is somewhat, and I think
hypocritical
perhaps, but also I think like there's the internet perhaps, or the sort of fandom at large, and a lot of perhaps critical corners of fandom kind of attach themselves to one idea of really everybody, to Kenny himself as well as to you. Do you think that Kenny's idea of Will Ospreay is a little bit outdated, perhaps?
And I don't want to make excuses, but this is where I've made mistakes, because I've never really thought about the things that I have done. I've kind of lived a life where I do something and then think about the repercussions later, which in hindsight, I wish I could have taken back, hey? But I do feel I'm at the most cool-headed that I've ever been. I feel like I'm laser focused now on the task at hand, and the task is to now do something that Kenny's never done, and that's take New Japan out of the Dark Ages.
What was your take on Kenny when you first met him in I assume 16, or maybe was it before? And
I met Kenny. So I met Kenny back in like 2015 at PWG. So where I was working, I had a match for him. Like, I think it's real mad that you said that. I think it's 7 years to this day when I wrestled Kenny last time, which is real scary now. I think about that. It's a weird coincidence, but he gave me an incredible showcase. Both him and I did not know I was coming to New Japan at that point, but he was afterwards gave me a lot of advice. And then obviously when I came to New Japan and I made my mark in Chaos, so obviously we didn't really speak or acknowledge one another, but like I knew Kenny was the man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, Kenny was like, the way that he wrestled it's the way that I want to wrestle. Like, he's the way that he acted, the way that he portrayed himself. I was just like, that's who I want to be like. Do you know what I mean? That's how I want to wrestle. That's how I want to showcase my ability. But like, I don't know, just as time went on. I mean, I said it before, but like when me and Kenny bumped into each other at the Tokyo Dome and we had a little chat with one another, and he told me that he was on his way out and that New Japan is going to rely on me, and I think he's had the same conversation with Jay, and he said that it's time for me to pick up the ball and run with it, and I feel like I did that. It's only because of, I don't know, some weird form of jealousy or some right that he thinks that everything should be, his opinion is correct with how wrestling should be. I don't know. Look, the thing is once again, I used to look up to Kenny. I used to, like, even though I was a chaos guy, like deep down, I saw what Kenny did, and I was in awe of it. I won't lie to you, Chris. Like I was blown away by it. But what do you want me to say now? It's well and truly over with. Like I have no admiration for him. I have no love lost for him. I just know that he's one of the best wrestlers of all time, and I feel like right now I'm one of the best wrestlers of all time. And I think for a lot of Japanese fans, this is kind of a moment to see who really and truly is the best wrestler in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting that Kenny's pretty much exactly 10 years older than you, I think. And, Kenny had exactly the same comments directed towards him that he was making to you, and if we go through this cycle over and over of like the one generation above, like, not these guys don't know how to work kind of thing, but that, basically that. And it's interesting now we're 50 years, we're 50 years of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, Antonio Inoki passing away. And this match happening in New Japan, obviously nothing that, it's not going to be the style of match that people would have ever imagined in 1972. But what does, I guess, New Japan Pro Wrestling mean in 2022? What does like that idea of strong style that Inoki created or marketed, like what do you think that means to you?
I do think it's a desire to win. It's pro wrestling is competition, and it's about pushing yourself and trying to be the greatest at this. There are a lot of people that will call themselves the GOATs. There are a lot of people that will call themselves the best in the world. There's so many, like there's so many catchphrases, right? But like for me, New Japan and strong style to me means it's that burning spirit inside of you for when you do this. There is something that tells you, even though your body is sore and in pain, and you can feel your ligaments tearing and bones not in the place they should be. And there's moments where you wake up every single night and you think, why do you do this? And it's because it's that burning desire to win. It's that feeling of never giving up and going the extra way for the people that have supported you, to the family that is at home, to the boys that surround me ringside. It's a desire to not only put food on their plates, it's a desire to just ensure a happier and healthy lifestyle going forward. And not only that, but inspiring the next crop of talent to push just as hard as what we did. Like, I don't know much about the history of, and I know a little bit of Antonio Inoki, but like the one thing that I did know is he had that burning spirit that I feel like everyone in this roster and everyone in New Japan has, is that burning spirit to push through when it gets hard, to do their best and to deliver the performances for the New Japan Pro Wrestling fans, because that's exactly what he did way back then when New Japan first started.
We did an interview with Shibata, and there was this question about that burning spirit, Tokon, as we call it, and Shibata kind of said that he feels there's, although we operate on a much higher level now, but there's like Tokon is kind of like this intangible that maybe ended with him and Tanahashi and Nakamura. Do you agree with that sentiment at all?
I feel like he's thinking of like more of like stylistically wrestling wise. Like I can happily say like I'm a fan of Shibata's style and his wherewithal, but I think you can't tell me that I haven't got spirit for all the things that I've gone through this year. Chris, like I had an infection that nearly killed me. Yeah. And I, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to take the rest of the year out, I was back in like 2 to 3 weeks. That how can you tell me that that's not burning spirit? That I, in the face of death, I lost all my body mass. I was on an IV drip. And the first thing I was thinking about was, when can I come back? And when can I perform in a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring for New Japan fans? That's burning spirit. That's a will to win. That's a will to, and a desire to take the company out of the dark and bring it back to the light. So if he wants to believe that he died with Nakamura, Tana, and himself, he's more entitled to his opinion. But like the facts remain that I'm here delivering. The United Empire are delivering and showing everybody that there still is a heartbeat in New Japan, and that heartbeat resonates from us. What can I really say? It's Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. 2 of the greatest foreigners to have ever been in a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring. 2 of the 2 greatest performers in all of pro wrestling right now to this day. A dream match right in front of your very eyes. It takes place in the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom, in what many people are calling a double main event. I see you at the top, Kenny. And I hope every single person from the New Japan fan base and the AEW fan base and just wrestling fan base enjoy, because it is going to be the greatest spectacle that I can give.
新日本プロレス50周年ファイナルダブルメインイベント、ジェイ・ホワイト VS 岡田和親、ウィル・オスプレイ VS ケニー・オメガ、1.4 東京ドーム新日本プロレスワールドで生中継。